more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
This is Rogers TV, Grey County.
Hello and welcome to this special edition COVID-19 Rogers TV program, informing you of resources and services available to you and your family during this pandemic. My name is Carol Merton, and before I welcome our guests to the program, for those of you who watch the program regularly, you know that I like to express a few words of thanks. So I would definitely like to express my thanks to all as we move through phase 1 towards phase 2 around the reopening of our province. We need to celebrate the lifting of some of the public health restrictions, and we are hopeful that we can continue to move through phase 2 and into phase 3. Significant attention to the details required to keep the public and employees safe is very clear and very obvious in the various businesses and services that are reopening. They need our support to follow these instructions and to follow these directions as we keep working together to prevent the spread of COVID-19. I know for sure that I am learning to look down often to the floors to make sure I'm following the directional arrows correctly. And believe me, I have been told if I'm going in the wrong direction. We know that the situation is fluid and it keeps changing as the number of COVID-19 cases continues to be monitored closely by public health. Without a doubt, we are all anxious to get our lives back to normal, and we know that the new normal will look very different than it did a few months ago. We are anxious to move forward, and those on the front line are weary. Thank you to all in our community who continue to provide the supports and services needed, to our Public Medical Officer of Health, the Public Health Unit staff, all of our frontline emergency service personnel, and to the essential and community support services for their ongoing efforts to keep us safe. We will get through this together, and we will be stronger than ever. And now I would like to welcome two guests today. I have Fire Chief Doug Barfoot and Fire Prevention Officer Greg Nicol, who are here to talk about how COVID-19 has affected the fire services and how the community can support them as we move through this situation. Thank you to both who are joining us today. So, lots of changes, I'm sure, in the fire department. And I must mention that we also have another guest behind you, Greg. Do you want to introduce your guest?
Well, Sparky the fire dog is joining us here this afternoon, Carol, as well, with Chief Barfoot and I, just to show the kids that, hey, fire safety doesn't take a day off. And Sparky's always there, always watching me, making sure that I'm fire safe in our community.
So he's looking over your shoulder every day?
Every day. If not, there's Sparky's, his clone is on the other side, sitting in a little mini fire truck in our office as well.
Excellent, excellent. So Chief Barfoot, I'm sure that this is a situation you may never have encountered before in your career. What are you noticing, and what are some of the changes that you've had to do as the fire chief for the city of Owen Sound?
I guess I could comment. Again, I went
through the SARS, and again, that kind of changed things a little bit for us. This is very similar, other than the fact that there's a whole bunch more unknown to this than there was anything else we came in. So any medical calls, any calls we go on, always have been careful to wear all our PPE. Because of the unknown in this case, it just upped it a whole bunch. And the other part of this is getting PPE at the start was very difficult. So we were scrambling. We were literally, wherever we could find something, we take it. And that has mellowed out. We have been able to get stuff now. We're pretty well adequately supplied. Again, on calls, it's organized. We upgrade our PPE to match the call. And we've been very, very fortunate. We haven't had any instances in Owen Sound. So.
And I'm definitely knocking on wood, because we want that to continue. We want that success story to continue. So how do you determine what PPE, take me through what a call would be and who makes the decision about the PPE and how does that get activated?
So we work very closely with the health unit, Dr. Era, and the Grey County Paramedic Service. So any medical calls we go on, we are there to help the paramedics. So we let them take the lead role. They have a system in place where they, again, interview the caller to determine what level this call is going to be. Again, so if they do come up with the indication that the person could be COVID-19 positive, then we wear all the necessary PPE. It's laid out, and that's a mask, goggles, gown, gloves, everything's in place. And if we're at the point we're not sure, then we wear mask, goggles, gown, gloves. We aren't taking any chances.
So I think that the point is important, that you're there to support medical calls as well as fight fires, correct?
Exactly. And the one point that I did want to, again, bring up now, I should just go back a second here. When I say we haven't encountered any instances, that's of our staff getting or picking up COVID-19 from an on-duty call. We've been very fortunate that way, that the PPE has worked. The issue we still go on fire calls. Again, so we go to a fire alarm at a large building. We need to talk to people. We still need to maintain a physical distancing. Again, we're not trying to be rude. We're trying to, again, just maintain our distancing. So if we ask you to back off, like I said, we're not trying to be rude. We just want to maintain that distancing, or we could put a mask on just to, again, look after ourselves. So,
Now,
having said that, life carries on. It doesn't, of course. So.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten you, Greg. I just have another question for the chief before I pass it over to you, and we'll just go back and forth. So, Chief Barfoot, you also participate in a variety of meetings, right? And so can you describe a little bit how those meetings have changed as well in response to the COVID-19 situation?
I disinfect my hands leaving the station. I disinfect my hands walking into City Hall. We maintain our 6-foot distance. When we're done, we get disinfected and we wipe down the table and we wipe down the chair. We wipe down the door handles leaving. On leaving the City Hall, I disinfect my hands again. And I keep a jar of disinfectant in my truck. So my hands get wiped down several times a day.
And the use of technology as well. Are you finding you're using more technology to conduct meetings or participate in meetings? Or are you still able to have the small group meetings?
Again, we're using both. Again, at City Hall, where we can maintain the distance in the room, I believe it's better. Where that can't be done, then it is done with the Zoom meeting, the same as what we're doing right now.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So, Greg, do you mind telling us about your role pre-COVID-19 and how it's changed, if it has, at this point in time? I never want to assume that everything changes, although it seems like everything does.
You know, Our office is open, and if there's a complaint, a concern about any safety in their building, we'll get there. We'll get there usually within a business day for sure, Carol. We are kind of limiting our routine fire inspections. We've started those back up, and we do a lot of routine inspections in our office with myself and my colleague, Doug McEwen. We go through many of the buildings in our community on an annual basis to make sure they're safe, and we've started that again. One of the things we normally are doing at this time of year is a lot of public education in schools. What we've done to get around that, because obviously we're not in schools, is we've formed a partnership with the Catholic Board and Timothy Christian, where I have been doing a class visit similar we're doing right now. It's been really well attended and really well received. It takes about 20 minutes, and I go through almost the identical presentation that I did in the class. A lot of the things we had made up already, ready to go. Because of big rooms and big classes, I already had some of the presentations made up, and then it was just a matter of using the devices, using the tools at our disposal that we have, and making do for sure to make things the best that we can.
So are you saying that you would actually do those virtually, where you're using technology and it's like educating over the internet?
Absolutely. We use Zoom with our friends at Timothy Christian School and did 3 classes there. At the Catholic District School Board, they use Google Meet, and I have a meeting tomorrow with a grade 3 class scheduled. And the Blue Water District School Board, I worked really hard with a couple of my teacher colleagues and my son's computer to try to make it work. And unfortunately, they use Microsoft Teams, and we just couldn't get it to work for this term. If we got to go the fall, we'll make sure we get it working.
So the visits that you do both residential and commercial?
That's correct, yeah.
So in pre-COVID, you would actually physically go and conduct the inspection physically there?
Yeah. And that's still the same. If there's a fire concern, Carol, we're still going to the building. What I might do is when I get to your house, Carol, how you doing? How are you feeling? Have you any signs and symptoms of COVID-19? Have you met with anybody? We go through a bit of a checklist. Same thing we do here when we come to work in the morning. We go through a checklist. And if you meet any of those requirements that I need to put personal protective equipment on, we'll do that. If you haven't had any of that stuff, we'll maintain that physical distance of 6 feet. We'll do the inspection and we'll do the report and make sure that your house has working smoke alarms. You have the carbon monoxide alarms, your fire alarm system's working, those kind of things.
Yeah. And in a commercial building, it would be similar at this point in time?
Absolutely. I was downtown yesterday doing some of the new businesses in our community. And once we're done here, I'm going to go check a couple of other new businesses that have opened up to make sure that they have what they need for safety for themselves, for safety for the clients coming in, and that the building is designed for the right use. We've done some construction inspections during this. I've got another one lined up. Hopefully going to see Alpha Burger up on 10th Street West open up in the next couple of weeks, and that's a good news story for our community, and we want to make sure that they have all their life safety devices in place and ready to go.
Are you finding any difference in the inspections now compared to pre-COVID? I mean, other than the pre-screening, but any changes?
It's been very similar. That introduction, we were always introducing ourselves and making sure that kind of stuff. A little bit of spatial differences, making sure we're backing up. If somebody walks forward, you take a step back and vice versa. But generally, things are going well. We've got a great community, great relationship within our office and City Hall and our partnerships there and our great partnerships out in the community. They never hesitate to call us, and we can quickly give them assistance if they need it.
So you've discussed new residences and new buildings, new commercial buildings, but those that are already existing and operating, are they obligated to have an annual recheck of businesses and residents? How does that work?
The only buildings in the province of Ontario that have to be inspected and witnessed fire drill are care facilities. And we have 13 in our community. I was doing those December, January, had a couple left to do, and we didn't get through them all. We've got two left to do. And once the province allows us to do those inspections, we'll get those done very quickly. But normal buildings, there's no requirement to do it. Sometimes a requirement is through a legal request at the end of a sale or a mortgage request, and that's a fee. They send the request through our office, and we do that. Did a couple of those this morning. But generally, we do an annual inspection of all the buildings in town where you can kind of live, work, or play. And we will be getting those done over the next 12 months. I'm going to be contacting the hotel motels. It's kind of the time of the year that I do those. Like I say, my colleague is doing the large residential. And then once we kind of go through lists, and we've got a number of lists in our office that we work off of to make sure that all the buildings get a touch as much as possible.
Yeah, sounds like you're busy whether there's a pandemic in place or not in place, right? Sounds like you have a lot to do.
Absolutely. I mean, the buildings in town, I can't express my gratitude enough for the community, how great of partners they are to work with. They know what their roles and responsibilities are, that whether it's my educating them or even my predecessors educating them as what to need to get done. They know they're still doing their check, tests, and specs, and those things are still required, right? Whether there's COVID or not, the chief alluded to, fires can still occur, emergencies can still happen, people can still make bad decisions in their building. So we want to make sure the buildings are ready to go, the emergency equipment in the building is ready to go, and will work as designed so that the people that are in the building can feel safe.
So a couple of questions. First of all, I've been reading that the province is indicating restaurants can open up their patios, a little bit more space. Does that give you any concerns from a fire prevention or fire suppression approach?
Gee, will I answer the suppression question if you want?
I would have to say no. Again, they're going to do this if our fire prevention division has to go down and inspect it. The only concern I can think of outside the box is getting access into the building. And I'm sure if they set up these patios, there's still going to be access for us to get in the front door to get at the building. So other than that, I really can't see any issues other than that.
Yeah. And from a fire prevention, anything different from your aspect, Greg?
No, I echo the chief's comments there. Like most of the patios that are already licensed, they already would have had to meet certain requirements, and now they're actually being somewhat reduced occupant load on those. A lot of the patios, obviously, they have some exterior access. Reading through the province requirements yesterday, the patrons are now allowed to use the bathroom facilities in the buildings as of Friday, not as of today, but as of Friday, if they have a patio that's open. And then, of course, proper physical distancing and those kind of things are required. And they're generally way less than what the Ontario Fire Code, the Ontario Building Code would allow on a patio.
Yeah. Insurance coverage for individuals. Is there a benefit for individuals to have indicated they've had a fire inspection or prevention officer come into their home? Is there any impact on insurance rates?
Not that I'm aware of, Carol. Yeah. More than you would see that would be, and it's a big part of our job, is when somebody remortgages their house.
Yes.
Sometimes they'll get a request inspection, or not so much their house, but their business or their commercial enterprise. They'll have our office go in and do a check to make sure it complies, so that the bank isn't taking on any risk that they don't need to take on.
Right, right. So from your inspections, are there some common bits of advice, common themes that you could share with the public? People are at home more. They can maybe think a little bit more about safety and fire safety in their home. What do you almost, as a general rule, see when you're in a home that you might say, take a look at this or change that?
Well, Chief and I were just discussing this morning a burn complaint. And we have, just because of the time of year we've had, because of what we're allowed to do outside, we've had, I would say, a higher than normal level of burn complaints. So what we do there is we educate the homeowner or the occupant on the municipal bylaw requirements. And generally that is fires are permitted between 2 p.m. and 2 a.m. They need to be 3 to 6 meters away from the building, depending on your fireplace. There's a no burn district in our downtown core that we educate people on, and there's also applies to our fireworks bylaw, the same no burn district, no fireworks district in the old downtown core. A lot of reasons for that is that you may not have any grass area, or you may not even have a backyard. When you're burning, it's clean, dry firewood only, and it's away from your neighbors. So that's probably the biggest thing, consistent message we've got over the last couple of weeks is we've done a lot of open air burning complaints. That's not a huge difference. Then it's the spring. We get a lot of that. Obviously, having working smoke alarms, having a carbon monoxide alarm upstairs where you can hear it when you're sleeping, staying in the kitchen. If you are cooking, stay in the kitchen. That's no different, right? And a lot of people are cooking at home now, right? We're not going out for restaurants as much as we were. So you need to stay in the kitchen. And if you are having a couple of drinks, maybe you want to cook something that doesn't require cooking. I know it sounds funny, but maybe you want to have something that doesn't require you to use a stovetop, doesn't require you to use a deep fryer or a barbecue, because you need to be aware that you are, in fact, using something that's hot. If you're a smoker, limit your oxygen use in and around your cigarette. We've had a couple of large incidents in the last 6 to 12 months. The chief would agree that were significant contributing factors was smoking while on oxygen. And that's just a bad combination right there for sure. And, we have Canada Day coming up in the next few weeks. Fireworks, large shows are obviously been canceled. And we can imagine that some people want to have fireworks in and around their neighborhoods. Again, not in the downtown core. Make sure that they're 50 meters away from any nursing homes, any hospitals, gas stations, that kind of thing. You need to be well away from any building and any structure, and only adults to use them, not to have kids using them.
So just discussing the fireworks a little bit more, they could catch fire on a brush or whatever. So an additional safety close to a water supply, or what else would you suggest if, heaven forbid, there was a spark that caught fire?
My real suggestion in the city of Owen Sound is just don't do it, because you're no matter where you are in the city of Owen Sound, you're very close to a neighbor.
Yes.
I mean, all these fireworks go 50, 60 feet in the air easily a lot of times, and that is probably going to be over your lot, onto your neighbor's lot. And like you say, Carol, there's brush to burn, there's buildings to burn, there's sheds to burn, and it's just not ideal. Our strong recommendation is leave the fireworks with the true professionals in large spaces. What that doesn't mean is to go, okay, firefighter Greg said don't do it at my house, let's go over to a park in the community. No, we as a city don't permit fireworks on parks, on community property without prior permission. And that's not something that we give away unless it's something community minded, not just the general person to do it. So that's not something you can do either. But if you are going to, having a bucket of water, having a hose, using some sort of sand bucket to start the firework. If the firework doesn't go off, don't stick your head over to check it. That just kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. And once the fireworks have been used, cool them, wet them before you put them in the garbage can.
That's really good advice. I promised I would ask this question, so I'll look to the chief to give the answer, and then I'm coming back to Greg. Green flashing lights. I've been asked, what do we do when we see green flashing lights on a vehicle? And I'm wondering if you can explain what that is, and then what, as a community, we should do when we see those.
So this started a few years back, and this started with the volunteer fire services. And what that means is you have firefighters who are volunteers. They are responding from home in their own personal vehicle to a call, whether that be a motor vehicle accident, a structure fire, or whatever the incident is. So they're going to be in their own personal vehicle trying to get to an incident as quickly as they can. They're going to pull, and again, they can't speed. They've got to drive normally, but they're in a hurry. So they brought about these green lights. And what that is to advise the person in front of them, this is a volunteer firefighter. He is trying to get to an incident. Please pull over and let him go by. Again, there's no legal right. You have to. If it was a fire truck coming up, you would have the lights and the sirens where you're obligated to pull to the right and stop. This is a common sense approach to a volunteer firefighter trying to get to an incident. Please let him get there as quickly as you can. So it's just to advise the public.
Yeah. So it is a sign, it's a signal, but not a legal requirement. But we're encouraging people to really recognize that that person in that vehicle is going to a fire.
Yep. Or a medical call, or A motor vehicle accident, yes.
Excellent. Okay, that's really helpful. So when in doubt, pull over. Just when you see a flashing light, just pull over.
At least you know why the guy's in a hurry. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Greg, what message is different, or is it the same that you give to children and young adults and kids in school? What would you like to say to the younger group that may be watching the program today?
Well, first and foremost, Carol, I would say, and my friends out there in the public schools, I miss visiting with you guys for sure. And we're open for business. If you have a safety concern at your house and you have a question about fire safety, you can pick up the phone and give our office a call. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Give us a call at 519-376-2512. We appreciate those calls. We want to make sure that you're safe. And that's mom, dad, if you're listening, not an issue. Give our office a call. We'll come and visit, or call your local fire department. They'll come and visit to make sure that your house is safe. Friends, if you're at home, make sure that you have working smoke alarms on every level. Make sure that they're working and that they're ready to go. If they need the batteries replaced, replace the batteries. Have a carbon monoxide alarm upstairs or near your bedroom so you can hear that when it goes off. If a pot on the stove catches on fire, don't move the pot, leave it where it is. The simplest way to put that pot out is to put a lid on it. Those are the kind of messages that we consistently give with the kids. Make sure that they're thinking about how injuries occur. Predictable, preventable injuries are so often very, very damaging. So just think about wearing the right gear. Like the chief talked about, we wear personal protective equipment, but at home you can wear personal protective equipment. You can wear ear protection. You can wear eye protection. You can have a helmet on. You can have all kinds of protection on in the sports and the games you're playing.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that you had done education using the internet for some of the schools. So do you have a YouTube channel? Have you thought about, because it would be a really neat thing for the youth to be able to plug in and see Fire Prevention Officer Greg Nicol and Fire Chief Doug Barfoot on that YouTube saying, this is what you need to do. And you may want to think about that as a promo with Sparky, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned about having the fire extinguisher carbon monoxide, and you do an annual reminder campaign. Can you just mention about the timing that you encourage people to check their fire extinguishers and to check their fire alarms?
Smoke alarms, portable fire extinguishers should really be checked on a monthly basis. They're a very important aspect of your home. A lot of people will have portable fire extinguishers, but not necessarily, one, know where they are, and two, won't be able to access them because they end up at the back of under a cupboard or whatever. If you're going to have one, make sure that it's accessible. The chief and I have worked with a couple of businesses in town about having portable fire extinguishers that are kind of fixed over top of kitchen stoves. If you have an elderly family member or somebody that happens to not remember to stay in the kitchen, it's a great way of having that extra level of safety in your home. And those are available. And if you have a question about it, give our office a call and we can kind of give you direction. We've worked with our community housing companies in the city and given them information on those type of products.
We have about a minute left in the program, and I'm wondering if there's anything else that you'd like to say in just the last minute that we have.
Go ahead, Chief.
The only comment I could state that things have changed around that we have learned. It's maybe taken a few years in the fire service, but prevention of a fire makes a lot more sense than putting a fire out. So prevention is a big part of a fire department. It is one of our silos. And again, Greg and Doug have been doing an excellent job. We educate the young so when they get older, they know what to do. So again, we have fewer and fewer fires, which is good. Again, when a fire happens, somebody's having a bad day and we have to go to work. So, which we're ready to do, but let's prevent it first.
I want to thank you both very much for being on the program. This has been just excellent. Thank you to our viewing public as well for tuning in to the special edition COVID-19 Rogers television program. Take care, stay safe, care for each other. Thank you both.